Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm finally showing you how to make the hardtack biscuits. Some people call it bread, some people call it biscuit. However, this is literally a really old ancient recipe that people used during the sailing times, literally hundreds and hundreds of years ago. And it is as simple as a really dry, basic biscuit. If you can hear them, they are absolutely rock solid, but they do last pretty much indefinitely. Yes, you heard this correctly. This is a bread that pretty much lasts forever. At the moment, guys, you can still pick those up in some survival shops, but generally this kind of recipe is no longer really used because it's literally used to be created for people that used to sail and explore the world, that kind of thing, because literally they are indestructible. However, guys, as a prepper, it's one of the important things I think to learn and to know how to make this. And you will laugh at me for this one, okay? But kid you know, guys, I'm gonna make a few more of this. I've been making a few batches, so I thought finally I will actually make a video for you because I did promise. I'm literally gonna make a few more. I'm gonna vacuum pack them and I'm gonna hide them somewhere under the floorboards, literally for absolute and utter emergency, or for the sheer laugh of it, maybe one day somebody will, do something to the house and then they'll find them. So long as I put the notes how to use them, because you guys cannot consume them dry. You will have to soak them in some sort of either coffee liquid or soup, because you will literally break your teeth. So just as the interesting point, guys, the mass production of the hardtack happened in 1600s. So you can imagine how old the recipe is. So without further ado, guys, the simplicity of this is just mind-numbing. We will literally need 200 grams of a plain flour. We need approximately 175 milliliters or 3/4 of a cup of water, and we need salt, which is optional. And all we're going to do is mix these ingredients together, and I'll show you that in a second. So, I have my bowl here. So 200 grams of flour goes in. Okay, I'm going to add on salt now. I'm going to add on about a teaspoon. As I said, salt is optional, however, salt acts as a preservative as well, and you kind of want to flavour this just a tiny wee bit. Off it goes a bit of salt. Okay. And we're now going to add on water slowly. One thing, guys, obviously you can add it all at once, but sometimes, depending on the temperature, okay, sometimes the dough is too wet and you might put too much water, so you have to add on a little bit of flour to sort of get it back to the consistency we want. We want it to be a dry dough, okay? We're not making a pizza, we're not letting it rise proof. We're literally mixing flour and water and salt together. Okay, so we have a dough which is slightly a bit wet, but is mixed together. What I'm gonna do now, okay, is I've got some flour here. I'll put this aside. I'm gonna sprinkle this on a worktop. So do make sure that your worktops are clean. Get the dough out. Boom. Excuse me, I just put this behind. And we're just going to mix it a little bit better. There's no better tools than hands in the kitchen. Okay. This amount of flour will do us 6 biscuits. Okay, and I'm sticking to the traditional size of biscuits, which used to be 3" by 3" square. And they used to be about half an inch thick, okay? So here we go. You can see the dough is pretty much, my hands are almost clean. So this is the kind of thing we're looking for. I'm making them square, well, as square as possible. But again, they used to make them either square or round. That's not a problem at all. Do what you want to do. You can make them smaller, it's absolutely fine, but I'm just gonna stick to the original recipe. Okay. And there's nothing, guys, you might laugh, I mean, it's one of those things. I think as a prep, I always tell you, it's really important to know, I find for myself, to know I understand the food preservation in any aspect of food preservation, really. And such a basic thing. If you think, as I said, I did see the people selling the hardtack in it's online on Etsy, on eBay, but they're charging like quite a lot of money. If you consider, right, the flour, the bag of flour in Tesco's, if you buy the Tesco's flour is like 69p, right? So it's cheap. It's flour, water, and that's happy days. Right, so this is all we have, okay? We have my dough, trying to make it square. Kind of trying to be perfectionist, but would you think if I'm going to keep them, somewhere to the floorboards, does that really matter? And the answer to you is no, it doesn't. So here we are. This is my dough. So now we're going to cut it into 6 biscuits. Okay. Or as many as you want. You know, actually, I'm just cut them. I'm going to make 8. Because I made the cut in the wrong place. Silly woman. Here we go. We have 8 biscuits. Okay. I'm just going to grab a fork. And we're now going to make some holes in the biscuits. We want to make sure that the holes go all the way through. And this is purely for the reason because we do not want the biscuits to puff up. They will still to some extent, okay? But we don't want that. We want them to be as flat as possible. And the reason for that, guys, is if you have, or for the old days really, if you had a little bit of a crack or a little bit of a hole inside the biscuits, there was possibility of worms or maggots getting in the food and living there. And I did read somewhere that actually some people, when they knew there was kind of potentially going to be happening, they were consuming those biscuits in the dark, just not to see the what they're consuming, what's actually living inside. But they were at the time were grateful for extra protein. I do not want to eat extra protein and I don't want to have maggots living in there, but because we're going to protect it when we store it, that shouldn't be a problem. So anyway, this is what we have now. So I'm just going to grab a tray and I'm baking them in air fryer oven. Okay, you don't have to, you can use normal conventional oven. If you do, preheat it to about 180. Okay, and put them on a lower shelf. We don't want, guys, those biscuits to go really brown. We just want them to dry out with a tiny bit of maybe a hint of a color, but we do not want to brown them off. So I'm going to lay them out. Sorry, this in front of you. Okay, and we're going to put them in, I'm going to put them in the air fryer for about 40 minutes. If you put them in the oven, you probably need about an hour, and you do need to turn them halfway through just to make sure that they literally bake through evenly and dry out evenly if you wish. So I shall put mine in the oven now. So biscuits are now in the oven. I'm going to clear this all off and I shall see you when they're done. So guys, here we are. They are ready, though still a little bit hot. You can see they have sort of shrunk a tiny wee bit. Nonetheless, they look like they're cooked through already. If you have any issues, guys, if you feel that potentially they are still a bit not hollow when you tap them when they're cool, just put them back in the oven for another 20 minutes or so. It should be absolutely fine. I know some people say you can actually leave them on the counter to dry, which is kind of absolutely possible, so long as you put something over the top to make sure, obviously, there's no dust or anything going in there. At the same time, do not ever cover them when they are still hot, because obviously they will sweat and it will get them even moisture back in there. So make sure they are kind of tightly covered when they're cool so they don't start sweating inside. But nonetheless, guys, so hopefully you kind of find this at all helpful. I think it's very important to be able to know this kind of recipes. As I said, as a prepper, we know obviously a lot of things happening, but none of us really know what's going to happen, what's going to be around the corner altogether. And of course, this is like the ultimate survival food, right? Each biscuit contains approximately 100 calories, and of course, it's not going to sort of give you anything you need, absolutely not for survival. However, 100 calories when you're absolutely starving, it's something that could keep you going for a little while. Bearing in mind as well the fact, guys, that I'm going to literally hide them under the under the floorboard somewhere, then I think it's a good idea just to make a few of those things and just sort of hide them away. Obviously, make sure they're 100% dry, because if not, they will sweat and they will mold, which you don't want. So if you are going to make this, yes, 100% hollow, 100% dry. Again, don't make it sort of one of those doom and gloom scenarios. Yes, it's a totally like apocalypse survival food. However, get your kids involved if you have any. Just, it's a little bit of fun making it. It's so simple. It's so inexpensive. If you think, the bag of flour for like 69p, you can make a lot of it. Make a fun afternoon of it, and then just stash them somewhere if you wanted to. So anyway, hopefully you find this recipe helpful. Don't forget, guys, please thumbs up. It will help the channel, help the video, help the algorithm. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll hopefully see you in the next video. Bye bye.